One of the prominent features of the truck that I'm building is a large number of coach bolts that are used to hold the rear timber work of the body together, and the bolts are inserted from inside the body, and on the outside there are square nuts, and there are a lot of them, and they're very prominent. So one of the things I have to do is replicate those square nuts, and you can see two 3mm by 3mm pieces of metal. In reality, as you can see, I've made actually it's 160, and I did that by using this little device. Let me just zoom out a bit. So this allows me to do a defined length. Simply fasten that, and then I can insert a piece of material, in this case the 3mm stock, and as you can see there is a groove for a saw blade just there, and you would go in and you cut your material to suit. So I've made lots and lots of 3mm square sections using that particular tool. What I now have to do is I've got to drill a hole in the centre. The nuts the bolts that I will be using will be 1.3mm in thread diameter. That's 12BA, but 12BA nuts and bolts. So I have to put a 1.1mm hole in these. I then have to tap it with a 12BA thread, and all of that while holding it. So the device I've come up with basically is I've got this 4-jaw chuck, which can go in the bigger chuck of my lathe. I've made this little device which basically is a filler piece which prevents these small pieces of metal going down inside, and what I do is simply push that in there. So if I just zoom in on that a little bit, so what you can now see is the 3mm square held in there, and tighten up the chuck, get it the right way, and that is now held in the chuck, ready to go in the lathe for machining. So there's the small 4-jaw chuck put in my large lathe. What I'm going to do now is, firstly, I'll just move this forward. I'm using a centre drill just to put a very small indentation in the metal. So I'll just do that now. What I'm also doing is, to speed the job up, I'm using my collet holder so that I just whip the chuck out with the centre drill in, and then put the 1.3mm held in a collet. So that's the 1.3mm hole. Now drilled, sorry, the 1.1mm hole now drilled in the components. Next thing to do is get the taps out and tap that. So here we are. There's the 12BA tap, and I'm just going to tap a hole down the centre of that small component. And you can probably see, let's get this in focus, the actual little square piece has come off with the tap, and you can see a hole that is more or less in the centre. Good enough so that once it's on the model you probably won't notice that there is a slight difference on one side. So that's one of many to be made. That's me now spending the rest of the afternoon making as many as I can. So here's a short video of me making some square nuts. Change that tool, put this one in, forward, drill the hole, change the tool back over, ready for the next one, stop the lathe, so there we are, that's one of the nuts made, as you can see there, hopefully. Just put the second one in. Tighten that up. Out. There's another one made, and I'll just make one more. Oops, I've just put one in that I've previously made. Let's take that out, down onto there. Let's take that one away. Here we are with another blank. So the one I'm doing at the moment is number 124. I reckon it's taking around about 40 seconds to make one. And I need about 120, so I'm slightly over that number. But the task is now finished. Super!